And we are recording. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am going to talk to you tonight about YouTube and the SCA. Specifically, the focus is going to be on how to use YouTube to recruit for your group. I am kolfinna in kyrra, Ottarsdottir. And let's get started. One note, if people have questions or thoughts they have along the way, please feel free to use the chat, or I know Zoom has the raise hand feature. Since I'll be doing the sharing and glancing at my slides a lot, I may have to pause and check those at the end, or if people want to chime in vocally and draw my attention to those, feel free to do that. But here we go. Everybody see the slides change? I see a nod, so I'm going. So a little bit about me before I dive in. So I am kolfinna. I've been playing in the SCA since 2008. I currently live in Bringwalad in the Kingdom of Ottarsdottir. I've been the acting web minister for about a year and a third. Previously, I've held officer positions. I've got a few listed there. I have a few recognitions in the society, mostly service-based. I tend to jump in, volunteer to teach classes. I dabble in projects. I love getting things done, and so that's what I tend to do. Mundanely, a little bit of information about me. My name is Kyrra. I am a software engineer by training. I have professional certifications in Scrum, in software testing. I've been trained in process improvement, software development, and mathematics. In a nutshell, because those could all mean a lot of things for what I do day to day, but in general, my job is to find ways things can improve and then create space for those improvements to happen. Set at the front, we're going to be talking about YouTube and the SCA. I want to be upfront about a couple of things that you should not expect to come out of this talk with. First, I cannot and will not be giving you a magic bullet for recruiting. I'm going to be giving you information about the YouTube platform in the context of recruiting for the SCA, so that you can make the decision about whether or not you want to start using it, and give you a general direction for where you could go with it. You will also not be getting a detailed walkthrough of the YouTube user or creator interface. I'm not going to be walking you through menus. I'm not going to be, clicking on buttons and giving you a step 1, step 2, step 3. YouTube has already created a phenomenal academy. They have video and text-based courses that cover all of that, all of the little details about how do I do this, how do I do that. It's all covered in YouTube's Creator Academy. So I recommend, if you need that kind of support, check there first. What is my goal for what you're going to leave with today? I hope that we end this with you having a good, or at the very least, a better understanding of the YouTube platform, a good understanding of the important parts of YouTube content, and a good understanding of your options for how you could use YouTube to recruit for the SCA, be that a group, a kingdom, the whole society, who knows. I'm going to start out talking about the platform. I'm going to try and answer the question, what is YouTube and how does it work? So let's dive in. First of all, at the highest level, YouTube is a free online video sharing service. It's not the only video sharing service, it's not the only online service, and it's not the only free service, but it is the most popular one. Users of the platform can watch videos, they can create videos, they can watch ads, they can create ads, and they can interact with that content through likes, commenting, subscribing to channels, and more. We're good. Yeah. In general, YouTube users consist of 2 main groups. One group is people who are just watching videos on YouTube without an account. So they haven't logged in, they don't have an account, they're not paying for anything, they're just watching videos. Totally free, available online. The other collection of users are people with accounts. People who have accounts can also be viewers. They can watch content. They can upload content, so they can create videos and upload them to YouTube. Or they can go live, which automatically creates a recording. And they can create advertisements on YouTube. Some facts about YouTube. What is it? Why do we care about it? The next few slides are going to have a bunch of data that I collected from a lot of large-scale studies that were conducted in the years 2019 and 2020, so about the last 2 years. I tried to get the most up-to-date sources as I could find, and I have all of them linked at the end of the slides. So if you're curious about the sources, I have that all linked. You can dig into it later. But here are the facts. YouTube has 2 billion unique logged in users per month. Now, I said just before, there are people who have accounts who are logged in and people who are not. This is only talking about the people who are logged in. So these are unique logged in users. It's 2 billion, which is a big number. So to kind of put that number in context, I did the math on that, and it's currently 2 billion is about 28% of the world population. To put that number in context, I did the math and figured that about 23 of the world population lives in the United States, India, and Japan. Another fact about YouTube users, there's 1% of users pay for YouTube Premium. And I'll talk a little bit about YouTube Premium later, but generally they pay for the version of YouTube that doesn't have advertisements, which if I flip that means of 2 billion unique logged in users, 99% of them see ads whenever they watch videos, either before their video, in the middle of their video, or at the end. Viewers are most likely to be in the United States, India, and Japan. And that's the percent of YouTube viewers in each of those countries. Again, these are approximate. I did a little bit of rounding. Who uses YouTube? I have a breakdown by age groups. 77% of people ages 15 to 35 use YouTube. 7 out of 10 people in the age range 15 to 35 use YouTube. 73% ages 36 to 45, 7 out of 10. 70% of people ages 46 to 55 use YouTube, and 69% ages 55 and up. If I look at all of those, I can say 70% of people use YouTube, 7 out of 10 people. So it's a big audience. And then from another survey, found that 73% of US adults, that's ages 18 and up, say they've used YouTube. So a lot of users in the United States, especially, and then India and Japan. Other facts about YouTube users, there is a high overlap between YouTube users and Facebook users. What I mean by that is, like, if you have somebody who's using YouTube, there's a good chance they also use Facebook and vice versa. YouTube is also the second most popular platform for video on TV screens of people ages 18 to 34. It's the second most popular platform for video. Can anybody hazard a guess for what the most popular platform is?
Netflix?
Netflix is the most popular platform, ages 18 to 34, for video on TV screens. Now, if you think about that for a second, Netflix doesn't have advertisements and YouTube does. So what I can say from that is YouTube is the most popular platform for video on TV screens that has advertisements. And we know most YouTube users see ads.
Hey, kolfinna, can you check the waiting room? Someone's messaging us saying they're trying to get in.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
Got them both. Thanks for drawing my attention to that. So we've talked about who uses YouTube. I want to take a couple of slides to talk about how do people use this platform. Over 70% of views are from mobile devices. 7 out of 10 people use YouTube on their phone. On average, visitors spend 17 minutes and 28 seconds on YouTube. That's on average. I know me personally, on a given day, I could spend several hours on YouTube, depending on what I'm watching or what I'm looking for. The next two facts will be useful, become more, these will be more meaningful as we continue on through these slides. 81% of adults in the United States occasionally or regularly watch the videos that are recommended by YouTube. Similarly, across all YouTube users, 7 out of 10 people watch the videos that YouTube recommends. I see another waiting room. Boop. Right now, that's information. I haven't put that in the context of recruiting yet, but we will come back to those two things shortly. Make sure I can advance. Other things about how people use YouTube. Viewers prefer content related to their personal interests. Specifically, they prefer content that they're interested in over content that has famous people or content that has a really high production value. Since we all work in the SCA, we work on a volunteer basis, probably we're not going to have the highest quality production materials. And so that is actually extremely encouraging, that if we are producing content that is interesting, people are more likely to watch it, even if the production quality is not, crazy good. Other things, 70% of millennial users, which is, I forget exactly the age range that they use for this study, but it was, I think 25 to 35-year-olds, 25 to 40, in that general ballpark. They watch YouTube to learn how to do something or to learn about something that they're interested in. And most people who use YouTube use it to learn about products they intend to buy when they're early on in their shopping process. One fun fact that I stumbled across is, and I wasn't aware of this, but advertisers, people who are creating ads that come at the beginning, the end, or in the middle of videos, tend to create ads that feature men more than women, which is interesting. Men speak about twice as often in advertisements on YouTube as women, based on the study that I was reading. And however, people watch them less. 56% of video views were from people watching gender balanced or women-led ads, which I thought was very interesting, and I wanted to include that in here. So that was a lot of information about YouTube. What does this tell us? What we can take away from this, or what I'm taking away from this, is YouTube has a large number of users and they see ads. YouTube users prefer content related to their own personal interests. Viewers use YouTube regularly to learn about products before they buy in. They use it to learn skills, and they use it to learn more about stuff that they're interested in. And the fourth takeaway from this dump of data is that users trust YouTube's algorithms to recommend them content. So if I go to YouTube and I search, I would like to see cats falling off of beds, YouTube is going to give me suggestions. 8 out of 10 times, I'm going to watch what they suggest. If I'm in it's 7 out of 10 over all users and 8 out of 10-ish for millennial users. Cool, that's fun information. Next thing I'm going to talk about is a little bit about the YouTube algorithm. I'm taking the time to talk about this because of that fact about people watch what YouTube recommends. And so if we are going to start creating content and putting it on YouTube, it's beneficial for us to understand how those recommendations are, how they come about, how does YouTube recommend stuff, because then we can make smarter decisions about what content we're creating and hopefully get it to our audience so that YouTube will say, hey person, you should watch this video, and it will be ours. So by the algorithm, what I mean by that is the process by which YouTube ranks and recommends videos to viewers. It's everything in between User says, I would like to see this, and YouTube saying, here's a video. Everything in between there. It's very broad. I have decided to represent it as a circle of arrows. I'm going to start in the top left. It's light blue. First thing that has to happen is a user has to search for content. They have to say, I would like to watch something. Next thing that happens is YouTube will recommend them content. The user, then the viewer, will engage with that content. They'll watch it, they'll share it, they'll like, subscribe, they'll do something. And then YouTube will take that engagement and update their recommendations so that the next time somebody searches for that content, maybe they'll give them the exact same video, maybe they'll give them different videos. And so it's this constant cycle of ask a thing, interact with a thing, YouTube updates its recommendations, and it happens constantly. I'm going to dive down into each one of these parts a little bit more. Let's see if I can get this thing out of the way. So user search for content, and I've said that word a few times already. By content, I mean things that are videos, advertisements, or both. We've already talked a little bit about how people search for stuff. We're all using Zoom, which means we're all connected to the internet, and I would hazard a guess to say we've all searched for something online. So we know people search for their interests. We look for things that we want to see. In general, when you're typing into a search bar, you think, I want to see, and you finish the sentence. I want to see cats falling off of beds. I want to see dukes fighting in tournaments. I want to see someone making a 1400s gown. That's what you type in the search bar, and you hope that that's what comes up because that's what you want. We also know that people, and this is partly from my own experience and partly just from all the research that I was doing leading up to this, people will refine their search results to get something that's more specific to what they want. So if I'm, say, looking for construction patterns or the process for making clothing, I might start by typing medieval clothing, and I see what videos come up. You skim the results and you go, actually, you know what? That was too broad. Let me try something more specific. And then I type in 1400s underdress construction, filmed in Italy, if I really want to get that specific. And this is important for us to think about because if you're using YouTube and you're creating content, people are going to be searching for your content. And keeping that in mind can help you with describing what's in your video to make it easier for people to find it. YouTube recommends content. I boiled down what is YouTube's goal when it recommends videos, and it's twofold. And I pulled this straight from YouTube's own documentation. Their goals are to help viewers find the videos they want to watch, and they want to maximize long-term viewer engagement and satisfaction, which means if I search for cats falling off beds, YouTube wants to give me videos of cats falling off of beds. My cat fell off of the bed earlier today, which is why that keeps jumping into my mind. And then YouTube also wants you to engage with that content and be satisfied with it. So in order to accomplish those goals, YouTube tries to give you the best recommendations. It does that by ranking its content. So let's talk a little bit about ranking. This matters because our goal is to use YouTube to recruit for the SCA. We will be creating content. And so being aware of these things will hopefully make that easier. YouTube videos are ranked on a variety of factors, but the most important ones, the primary ones, are first, how well the video metadata matches the query, what you typed in the search bar. And by metadata, I mean the title, the description, the content of the video, the tags, all of the information about this video that is carried along with it whenever you open that one up. The second thing they emphasize for ranking is viewer engagement with that video. And I'm going to talk about engagement in more detail in just a second. But I want to emphasize YouTube search results are not a list of the most viewed videos. Their ranking is more complicated than that, but because YouTube's trying to give you the best recommendation, not necessarily the video that got clicked on the most. Okay, talking about engagement. Engagement in this context, engagement could mean a lot of things, but in the context of YouTube and video content, what I mean when I say users can engage, it means they like the video, they dislike the video, they subscribe to the channel that the video came from, they spend time watching the video. View time is a big factor in video engagement and video ranking. I have down here a little example. So if you had a video that got 1,000 views, but each of those 1,000 people only watched the first 5 seconds, you say, okay, that's one video. It's got lots of views, but none of them are for very long. And then say I have another video that has only 100 views, but it's an 1.5 hour long video and everybody watched the whole thing. That video, even though it has fewer views, the view count is less, will likely, based on the YouTube ranking system, be much higher ranked than the one that, you know, you get 5 seconds in and go, nah, this isn't what I want. Other examples of engagement: commenting, watching multiple videos in a playlist, and actually sharing videos is another thing that YouTube keeps track of. All of these factor into YouTube making the decision, is this video a good fit for this search result? And this is a process. YouTube updates their recommendations constantly based on the engagement and the video metadata. Now, engagement changes, right? People, maybe last week, everybody watched, you know, the intro to this video, but this week, everybody's watching it from the start to finish. That's an example of engagement changing. But the video metadata, the title, the description, the tags, the thumbnail, all of that can change too. And if you are a content producer, you control that. So you can actually control a big part of the YouTube, one of the factors into YouTube ranking. So their recommendations change, and in general, and this is quoted from YouTube, recommendations follow the audience. So viewers, what people are watching, what people are interested in is where the recommendations go. So this is a thing that people are engaging with. Here, this is probably what you want. So that's YouTube algorithm. So what does this tell us? Takeaways from this is, and this is repeated from before, but people search for things that they are interested in. We search for what we want to see. YouTube prioritizes giving people the content they want. They want to give you the things that you want to see. And because of the way ranking and recommendations work in YouTube, content producers, so anybody who's created a video or an ad on YouTube, can impact whether or not YouTube is recommending their video. I say impact, not control, because you can't control it. YouTube is the one ultimately making the ranking and making the decisions, but you can have an impact on it because you control the video content and the metadata. So we've talked about YouTube, we've talked about the algorithm. Hopefully we understand how it works. So then we're at, cool, I want to use YouTube to recruit for my group. I should start making videos. So what videos do I make? Well, there's a couple more details that we need to sort through before we can do that. Before you can answer the question, what content do I make? Do I make a video? Do I make an ad? Do I make a long video, a short video? Lots of questions that you could be asking. We first have to ask and answer 2 very, very important questions. And this will come up regardless of whether you're using YouTube or Facebook or flyers posted in Windows. These are questions that you have to ask if you're trying to recruit or get engagement from a group of people. First, what is your audience? What is your target audience? Who are the people that you're trying to get here? And 2, what do you want them to do? Unfortunately, It'd be great if I could say, here you go. You want these people and you want them to do this. I can't give you that. The answers to these will change depending on who you are, where you are, what group you're in, what your goals are, and they could change pretty regularly. So it's something you have to ask and answer and then revisit. But I am going to talk through some examples, example answers to that question, to hopefully give you a starting place, and you can start thinking about, okay, if this was my group, what's my answer here? So let's go through both of those. Question number one, who is your audience? The videos or advertisements or whatever content that you're producing needs to be driven by and targeted toward an audience. If you can always create content that's not, but then it's more like it's a shot in the dark, whether or not, you know, the thing you created will actually be interesting to the people that the audience that you're trying to target. So I found it helpful as I was working through this to actually phrase the answer I have as X people who are interested in Y thing. I found that phrasing to be somewhat helpful, and I have some examples here. You could say my target audience is teenagers who are interested in dance. My target audience is people with hidden disabilities who are interested in playing in the SCA. My target audience is people who can't travel but are still interested in playing locally. My target audience is potters, people who throw pottery, who are interested in learning ancient techniques. Or my target audience is people who study New World personas who are interested in starting up local gatherings. These are all fine answers, and you probably, hopefully, are starting to think of who do you want to start, who do you want to target, who do you want to focus, who do you want to take action based on your recruitment strategy. I'm going to do a little example here in a second. And so for my example, I'm going to choose 25 to 35-year-olds who are interested in starting Scribble. And I'll come back to this little example here in a second. But that's who I've decided is my audience for today. The next question we're going to ask is, what do you want your audience to do? Just like who your audience is, what you want them to do could change. It'll differ depending on what group you're in, and it may differ within a single group from month to month to month. Some examples of what do you want them to do? Do you want them to come to a local guild meeting? Do you want them to engage in online discussion? That could be as simple as being like, I wish we could get more, conversation going on our Facebook posts or in our YouTube comment sections. Do you want them to attend an upcoming event? Do you want them to engage with your YouTube account specifically so that you can monetize your account? Do you want them to spend money? Do you want them to buy a membership? Do you want them to buy swag, t-shirts and hats and bumper stickers? Do you want them to come to your website? Do you want them to volunteer at a demo? What you want them to do, huge variety in there. And so that's something to think about. What do I want? I'm recruiting, I'm trying to get people to do a thing. What do I want them to do? I know for a lot of SCA recruiting, the easy answer is, well, I want them to come play with us. But you can make it a little bit more specific, which narrowing that down, thinking about it, can help you when you're trying to make a decision then about, okay, what video do I make? I've thrown in here an extra note on monetizing for YouTube. And I have the link at the bottom for the YouTube article where it breaks this down a little bit further and it has more links. But I wanted to throw this in here because I mentioned on the previous slide about monetizing your YouTube account. So YouTube has the infrastructure to support, basically, you create videos and then you make money. But there are categories of monetization that you can do. And some of these are going to be very much not really a great option in an SCA context because the SCA relatively is small. The main ways I have listed here, so you can create ads that will run at the beginning, middle, and end of somebody's video. And you can make money off of that. There's a YouTube advertising. Basically, they've got tutorials and stuff to how to walk you through doing that. It could be long, it could be short, it could be a 5-second teaser with a website link. There's a lot of options there. The two that are not probably going to be great goals for SCA recruiting is going to be going after large number of channel memberships. So for YouTube, if you get over 30,000 subscribers, your channel, they'll start sending you money, because YouTube, from YouTube's point of view, you are attracting a lot of people to their platform. They want you to keep doing it, and so they'll give you money. The other one is they have a merchandise shelf, I assume. That one also requires over 10,000 subscribers. And again, for most of the SCA stuff that we do, those numbers, if you're focusing on an SCA audience, are probably not going to be very attainable. However, if you want to create content that would appeal to a larger portion of, the world population, you could do that. But that comes back to the question of what audience are you trying to target? And that can help you make those decisions. And then the very last one, if you create content, any content that is watched by someone who pays for YouTube Premium, you get a kickback from that. But again, only 1% of YouTube users use YouTube Premium. And so that, while it's good to know that it's there, is probably not going to be something you want to bank on. So that kind of floats up to ad revenue. Running ads is kind of the most direct way, if you want to get money out of YouTube, to approach that. Okay, back to what is my audience going to do? For my little example, I'm going to choose, I want my 25 to 30-year-olds who are interested in starting Scribble to come to a local gathering. So the next thing I'm going to do, I've decided my audience, I know what I want them to do. Now let's make a video. Awesome. It is awesome. But it's still going to be work. But unfortunately, this is another time where I can't now say, cool, you've picked your audience, you've told them what to do. Now I can tell you, here's the video you should make. There's too many different types of audiences. There's too many calls to action for me to say, yep, here you go, and you're done. All the work is over. But I can walk you through kind of best practices, or I put best in quotes because I don't personally like the term best practices. I like better practices, because the practices that work for you may not work for somebody else, but usually there are things that float to the top that it's like, yep, nope, this is generally a good thing to do, and it's better if you do this. These are all going to be focused on your goal, because of what we know about YouTube, because we know people trust YouTube recommendations, is going to create content that YouTube is going to want to recommend to your audience. So the first thing you should do, if you're thinking about putting content on YouTube, is do a search for the thing that you're going to make and see what comes up. So I'm going to do a little search for my Scribble, and I've put two phrases in here that I'm going to search for. I'm going to search for SCA Scribble starting out, and I'm going to search for SCA Scribble local group. So let me make sure my screen will share. And can somebody, Kat, can you give me a thumbs up if y'all can see the YouTube? Yes, cool. So I'm going to search in here, SCA Scribble starting out, and then I'm going to make it a little bigger because the internet is great. And at this point, what I'm going to do, so I know I want people who are starting Scribble who are interested in coming to a local group. I have just searched for that. So I'm going to say, okay, if I'm one of those people, what results do I expect to see? So I'm going to look through these and just see what's there. So I can see there's a Scribble playlist, looks like a couple, SCA Scribble Arts playlists, Scribble and Linguistics, SCA Scrolls. Okay, so I'm going to click on one of these playlists. and pause it before it starts playing. And I want to see what kind of videos are in this playlist, like what's in here. And it looks like we have Scribble 101, Scribble Kit Deconstructed, and then videos talking about different Scribble techniques. At a glance, which is what most users will do, none of these seem focused on doing something with a local group, doing stuff with people. This is very technique focused. So let me also search for Scribble local group. Let's get rid of that. Looks like we got some of the same playlist that was the top result. And the first result is also here. More stuff about how to build a Scribble library. And it looks like we're getting pretty much the same results. Now I'm only looking at like the top 2 or 3 results because I'm pretending I'm a lazy internet user. And that's probably all I'm going to look at before I start throwing something else into my search bar. All right, so let me go back to my slides. Why did I do that search? Because I want to know what kind of results are already in YouTube. If I had seen a lot of results that were like advertising local groups and the community be part of Scribble and like all the things that I would probably go to for advertising this, I would know my video is going to have a lot of competition. Maybe I should do something different. But right, for the search that I just did, I saw a lot of results about how to do Scribble arts, but not how to do Scribble arts in a community or engage with a local group or something like that. So that tells me, okay, maybe I'm on the right track here. There's kind of a void in the YouTube video world that I could fill with my stuff. So that is the first part. Search for the video that you want to make. See what comes up. Since there aren't any videos about Scribble in local groups, I then am right back to the question, well, what video do I make? I was thinking about this earlier today, and immediately I was like, man, if only I could find something similar that I could use as a model or that could give me inspiration. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, what do you do at a Scribble night or a project night? It's generally you get people together, you work on something, you learn techniques, and you know, a lot of times, especially for SCA Scribble, you're working on scrolls that will be donated to local groups or kingdoms. And I was thinking about it and I was like, you know, I wonder, and I was like, decided to search for Habitat for Humanity. I didn't have anything in particular that led me to Habitat. It's just what crossed my mind. I was like, that's another group where you get people together in somewhat small groups, you work on things, you learn stuff. And so I wanted to see, what does their recruiting video look like? Maybe I can steal ideas. Let me pause this. So can everybody see the video that just came up? I see another thumbs up. Excellent. So it's a 4-minute video. I'm not going to play the whole thing. If the audio comes through, and I hope it does, that's great. But I'm still going to talk through the video. Either way, I'm going to play the first minute and then talk about what about this video I liked, and then kind of break into us talking about how could we adapt something like this for my Scribble night idea. So here we go and play the first minute of this video.
Yeah, just FYI, we cannot hear the audio. So
okay, I'll keep that in mind when I talk about it. Okay. All right. There's a lot of video footage. Since the audio is not going through, I'm not going to let the rest of it play. But how do I? Oh, hang on. I gotta get. Oops. Just a moment. We have to find my slides again. Boop. Okay, come back. Start my screen share. And, oops. Let's get back to our slide. So this was a recruitment video for Habitat for Humanity. I included the search term that I used on the 19th to find this. So if you want to try and look it up and watch it, you can. The actual like audio content, it's not crucial, but when I was watching this video, I want to talk a little bit about my takeaways, like why I watched the first minute of this video and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I could do something like that. And the things that jumped out to me were that little video included video footage of people doing the tasks that they're trying to market. It shows footage of people building houses. It includes the woman who's speaking in the video. She talks about how she had never built a house before. She didn't really know anything and people worked with her and she was learning stuff and it was great. If you noticed at the bottom of the video, every single frame of that video included a link to their website. So at any point in there, somebody who's watching it could be like, you know what, yeah, I want to go to that site and learn some more. It also included footage of the demographic that, I set in my head for what I want to target. That video had probably 25 to 35-year-olds working on a thing together. And if you watch the whole video, they talk about emphasizing multiple types of community, like getting to know people working on the houses, and then also like feeling good about doing something for the larger community. So with those kinds of things in mind, and I want people to chime in and talk if you have ideas, what kind of footage, what kind of video could we maybe make for a Scribble night using that as inspiration?
Well, I think you would definitely want, to be able to have people painting and, show that, people doing calligraphy. And like you said, if you're going for your, younger age groups, you need at least some people in that younger age group in the video, because we've talked about it before in recruiting, that like begets like, and if they see young people, they'll go, oh, okay, that's something young people do and I can do it too.
Yeah, anybody else? Thoughts?
I think that you could probably include the kind of some of the different aspects of what you'd be learning, like how to design the scroll. I mean, you could show people doing it. Somebody's designing the scroll while other people are just painting the charters, that kind of thing.
Yep.
A different variety of stuff that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts people have?
So I'm kind of cheating since I've actually seen the video. But one of the things that, the main lady who's talking kind of is hitting on is, the value of what they're doing. It's like, it's half, oh, I never thought I would be able to have these skills. And also this is an achievable project. It's like, it's a small home that's kind of has very specific ways that it's built. And then she's able to talk about, the benefit that this house will be to someone. And so you can kind of carry some of that in if you're able to interpose shots of, those special moments in court when someone's getting the scroll, when like, somebody like Vlad is doing the Vanna White across the front, showing it off, and everyone's like a shot from the back of court, everyone clapping, and that kind of thing can really help like make that connection of where the value is in this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. I mean, why you want to do these scrolls in the first place. Definitely.
And thinking I want to kind of throw this in here of, a lot of our activities are virtual, and we have things like Zoom meetings, or some groups will do Discord calls where they get people in video calls where people have their cameras up, they're showing their scrolls. Like you could even show footage of something like that as a way to say, and look, we do it remotely as well. Cool. Yeah. And this is essentially the kind of thought process that you would go through for anything that you want to create. It's, pick your audience. What do you want them to do? look to see if there's already stuff on YouTube specifically that matches, you know, the search terms that you want to use, the human language that people are going to use to try and find it. And then if you don't find anything, or you already have something that could be a really good example, you know, save yourself some work and steal ideas from existing, you know, top results, because those videos are generally at the top for a reason. It's because people are engaging with them. And so you can 100% use existing ads or videos as inspiration or as a model for what you want to do. Okay, a couple of extra notes about when you're actually creating your video. So we had some great ideas. And we say, all right, I've kind of decided, all right, maybe I can get some footage of this. Maybe I can have somebody, I can record the audio of somebody, you know, voicing over. One of the things I want to emphasize is when you're making a video ad where you're targeting an audience and you want them to do something, you should say, like, speak, tell the people, tell your audience the action that you want them to take. And you see, you know, the big name YouTube streamers and channels do this all the time. They're like, hey, thanks for joining my video, like, subscribe, comment at the bottom, check out my website. They tell people, this is what I want you to do. And you should do that too. Because if you just have a video that's like, wow, this is, you know, recording from, you know, the 1998 Crown tournament, and it's just, you know, video recording, people may watch it because they like seeing the fighting, but they're going to get to the end of it and go, that was cool. But if you get to the end of it and you're like, you like this? Do you want to be a part of it? Come check out our website. Come to our fighter practice. That gives people their next step. And so that's something you definitely want to include in text at the bottom of your video, speak it verbally in the video, and actually having both forms of that, both audio and spoken and written, is good, because that also expands the audience that you can target. So we've got our audience, we know what we want them to do, we've decided what, you know, our video that we're going to make, and maybe we've gone through a whole mess of overlaying multiple videos and doing very complicated video editing, or maybe, you know, we're just walking around our Scribble night with a camera and trimmed the video. It could be complex, it could be simple. The next thing you're going to have to do is upload your video to YouTube. And circling back to the beginning, we know YouTube has lots of users. People like to see the things that they're interested in, and people trust YouTube to recommend them content. So when you upload your content, there are things that you can control that will make it easier for YouTube to recognize it and recommend it. And so I have these listed out here. First things to think about is you want to think about your thumbnail. That's the small little image that appears with your search result, and the title, the text next to it. Your thumbnail and your title need to work together to create a compelling story. Specifically, they need to compel someone to click on it. So think about your title, think about your thumbnail, and use your friends to, if you're not sure if it's compelling, like, tell somebody, like, would you click on this? Get input from other people. And then the other thing about your thumbnail and your title, the content of your video needs to deliver on what they promise. You don't want to trick people into, you know, give them a title that's unrelated to the video content. Not only is that just generally bad practice, YouTube will actually penalize you if you make a habit of doing that, because YouTube's goal is to give people the content they want. And so they have a lot of policies about, no, you need to be upfront and clear about the content that you're producing. And so that is something to keep in mind. Next thing you can do is videos always have descriptions. If you go to YouTube, say you click on a video, you do what I do, which is pause it immediately, and you scroll down to the description of the video. This is where people will go to say, okay, what is this about? What should I be expecting here? It's also a place, your video descriptions, the general recommendations, I have a couple here, is you want to use terms that are searchable. Use natural human language. Write your description like you're telling someone, like you're talking to somebody about your video. You say, this video is about these things. And then the other recommendation for descriptions is you want to front load your description with the crucial details. Not only is that because people are lazy and they generally, read the first part and then they quit. YouTube's recommendation algorithm also prioritizes the beginnings of the descriptions for processing their metadata. So you want to put your important information in the front, maybe a sentence, maybe two, to say, here's my brief little blurb about what to expect in this video. And then everything after that, you can include links to your website, calls to action to say, come join us at our event, buy our sweaters, pick a thing. And so you can put a lot of information in the description, and you should, talk to the humans who are watching your videos. But front load it with the crucial information so that will help YouTube be able to recognize what it is. Other things that you should think about, YouTube has the ability to you can basically overlay on top of your video cards. And so if I'm watching a video, and anybody who's used YouTube, which is 8 out of 10 of you, 7 out of 10 of you have used this, you're watching a video and you'll see a little box of text come up above your screen. Maybe it has a link, maybe it has some straight text. It'll have it come up for a few seconds and then it'll go away. You watch a little bit more of a video, maybe you get another one down in the corner. These are things that the content creator, so the person who uploaded that video, chose to put those on there to say, I want this text to show up from 10 seconds in to 15 seconds in. That's something that you can do. So for example, if you have, we're doing our Scribble video and we're talking about like awards, you can have a little card that floats up and says, are you in the SCA? Have you recommended someone for an award lately? Link, and then it'll go away. As a way to kind of prompt people, here's a thing you can do. Here's actions I want you to take. And then end screens, that's when you get to the end of a video. It's generally 1 or 2 rectangles that pop up that it's another thing. It gives the users their next step. It's their next video to watch. It's a playlist to check out. It's a channel, another YouTube channel to go investigate. So like if I have a video for advertising our local Scribble night, one of my end screens could be, and look, here's the playlist of our Newcomer Academy videos so that people can have a next step. Other good practices for YouTube, if you're going to use YouTube to recruit, to target an audience, to get them to do things, it's really, really good practice to upload content on a regular schedule. We're probably, Scadians, we all volunteer. We're probably not going to be able to upload a new video every day, maybe not even every week, but, maybe think about what sort of schedule you could sustain for, I'm going to use YouTube to advertise, to market something, for this amount of time, and I can release videos once a month. Maybe they're very short, maybe they're very long. I can release videos every other week, because what that does for users, and I subscribe to podcasts. I have one comes out every Friday, and so every Friday I go to my podcast and I say, is there a new episode out? And then usually, there's going to be little messages, little information, something that will catch my attention. And so this is a way that you can basically get people to consistently return to your channel, so that if you have a new event coming up or a new guild coming out or whatever, your people will be coming back to visit it, and there's a greater chance that they'll see your new stuff. And then always think about playlists. The general recommendation that I came across was think of 4 to 6 videos that allow the viewer, and I love this phrase, to just lean back. So you've done the work for them. You've already keyed in on, this is something you're interested in. Here, watch 6 videos about it. Hang out with me for a bit. It's the general idea of a playlist. So things to think about. We're getting to the end steps. So we know, understand about YouTube. We picked our audience. We know what we want them to do. We've made our video. We've been very thoughtful about the video metadata. What do we do next? I've released my video. Now what? You need to be able, and you want to kind of think ahead of time about how you're going to track the impact. How do you know if it's worked? How do you know what's happened? From the YouTube side of it, YouTube, if you're uploading content, the dashboard that they provide for you is called YouTube Studio, and they have an enormous amount of like stats and data, and like you can actually like track the engagement on each one of your videos, like view time and likes and comments, and they basically say, and look, you can monitor your stuff. So definitely recommend using that. And again, the YouTube Creator Academy has great little like walkthroughs and tutorials for how to use the dashboard. But you also need to think about, if you're recruiting for the SCA, how are you going to know if your videos, your recruiting efforts are working? If I'm trying to recruit people to our local Scribble night, I could keep track of guild attendance maybe over a 6-month period. I could keep track of discussions or comments or posts in our Scribble Facebook group. I could keep track of like membership join requests for our Discord server, things like that. Basically, give yourself a way to say, is this working? Should I change this? Should I try something different? This is going really great. You need to have some way to answer that question. Otherwise, you've just thrown video onto the internet and who knows what happened. You can also, if you're trying to market guilds or you're trying to market like fighter practices or things like that, you can essentially kind of track those demographics in a variety of ways. So think about that. How are you gonna track it? The last two things that I want to throw on here on like what next. If you're trying to advertise, you're trying to market, you're trying to recruit, you are also going to be in this cyclical process. You are going to say, I want to see this thing happen. I want to see these people do this thing. You're going to put up a video to say, this should help. You're going to evaluate how that's going to happen. And then you have to decide, is this working? Is it not working? Should I try something different? And I cannot stress enough that it is okay and it is good to continue to try new things, to continue to try new content. There's no guarantee that your first idea is going to blow everything out of the water and be a huge success. It may take a few tries. And so just be willing to change tactics, be willing to try new things, and definitely like reach out to your community for ideas and help. Because, if we're looking for people who are interested in the things we're interested in, asking those people is probably a good place to start. All right, so tying this all together, we have talked about the YouTube platform and how it works and the basic process for how you could use this to recruit. So first thing, understand the platform. And this goes for YouTube, this goes for Facebook, Discord, Zoom. Pick a platform. Putting flyers in buildings. Understand the platform that you're trying to use. Read about it, learn how to use it, learn how it functions, because that will help you make decisions. Decide on your audience. Again, that works for YouTube and everywhere else. Decide what action you're wanting that audience to take. Create your content. And with YouTube, you want to create content that will play nicely with YouTube's algorithm, because we learned at the very, very beginning, this is me repeating, people will watch the videos that YouTube recommends. So you want to create your content so that it is easy for YouTube to recommend it. And then the last thing, have a plan to track the impact of your efforts. So that, maybe you decide we want to do one video a month for 6 months, for a year, one for each of our guilds. You can get to the end of it and be able to say, this worked, or this didn't work. Maybe we don't do that again next time. Maybe we do something else. So I hope that this expanded your arsenal of recruiting options, recruiting tools, things that you can think about. I have included here my contact information, email address, and then also my the website, which I'll upload the slides there as well as put them in the Facebook group. And then I have links for all the sites that I used for all the data at the beginning. And then I also included a few tutorials. There is the YouTube's Creator Academy, which if you're like, okay, I want to use YouTube, what button do I click? The YouTube Creator Academy is where to go first to find that answer, because they have a ton of really good stuff in there. I included what I thought was one of the better articles about using, oops, how do I get back? No, there we go, about using YouTube for advertising. Ooh, there we go. And that Google help article for monetizing on YouTube, in case people want to dig into those. So I will now open it up to anybody. If you have questions, I will do my best to answer them. And if I can't, I'll make a note and try to follow up via the Facebook event.
I have a question. It's
Yeah.
Richard Fairborn here.
Hi.
Hi. By the way, thank you for all the help with the Bonwick website.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Anytime.
So I put a question in the chat, but
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that. Sorry.
do you recommend, or do you know of any, recruitment videos that you've already seen on YouTube?
Just like in
So
general
something-
or SCA specific?
Yeah, something in general.
You mean like to use as like a model,
Well,
or
just something to look at. I mean, it's one thing to hear about this and to
Mhm.
implement it, but to see some of it or see 2 or 3 people do it, that helps me get a better understanding of
Okay.
what I may want to do.
Yeah, that's actually, you know what, I'm going to make a note of that, because I can kind of think offhand. I was like, well, you know, it's like I looked up like the Habitat for Humanity video, which I thought was a good model, at least for my example. But I don't have any like offhand that I can tell you about, but I'm going to make a note, because that's something that I can follow up with in the YouTube channel. And
Okay,
maybe we
that'd
can
be
just
great.
like start a conversation thread where it's like, all right, people, here's videos that I like. What have you seen that maybe we could use as a model for SCA stuff? I love that idea.
So I have a question,
Yeah.
kolfinna. And this is just me not having ever done anything with creating videos, but
Sure.
so I'm assuming you would want to have someone that has some experience with that helping you, then that has the software and things like that. Like, is it difficult to learn to do it, or would you want someone that kind of already knows what they're doing?
I would say it can be very complicated. You can also approach it. It can also be very simple. One of the simplest ways to kind of edit video footage would be, I'm just going to say, like, for example, say I'm doing this Scribble thing, and I have, if I was doing it now, I would have, the Scribble Guild hopefully in like a video call, and I would, I could even just like hold up my phone and like record my computer screen if you wanted to do that. If you're in person, doing video footage on your phone is a really, really great way to do it, especially because most smartphones have pretty good quality camera, if not a great quality camera. But as far as like the video recording, like you can use your phone. If you're doing stuff on a computer, you can use your computers. A lot of them will have like screen capture stuff that you can use. But for the video editing, so for the Scribble one, say I'm at an actual Scribble night, I have my phone and I'm like, all right, Orazio, can you talk for a few seconds about like your first day at Scribble? And then I film, people working at the table, and I film a couple of other people talking. And then I stop my recording. I say, okay, I have this long video that minimal effort possible. What I probably want to do is just cut out some chunks and say, I'll do that. And then I can use the cards and stuff to put, the website and everything on there. The YouTube Studio has all of that functionality built into it. And so what you could do is you would upload the full video, and then from the YouTube studio, it'll give you options to like trim and cut. And it actually has buttons where you can like blur the video, you know, from 10 seconds to 30 seconds, which I have found very helpful when I've done personal things of, whoops, I tabbed over to my email. Maybe I would not like that to be in there. And so they have a lot of features that are already built into YouTube Studio that you can take advantage of. Another kind of, again, easy entry into the video editing is, say I've done the same thing. I have a video recording on my phone. Say I'm assuming a smartphone here. So say I email it to myself, and then on my computer, you know, they have like, I forget what I think on my Windows machine, it's just called videos, movies and videos or something like that. It's the video program. It gives you the same kind of basic, I would like to trim, I would like to cut, I would like to resize. And so a lot of, you know, kind of the introductory editing that you might want to do, YouTube Studio, so YouTube itself, and then kind of just those basic applications will cover you. If you want to do more intricate editing, so say you have like footage of your Scribble and you want to overlay like a video of somebody talking, that's when you're going to need to use the little bit more beefier programs. The few that come to mind are the Mac, it's like Apple iMovie, I think. If you have an Apple device, it comes with a video editing program that you can use. That one has a lot more complicated features. I also know of, let me search for it. Shotcut, SHOTCUT, is a free video editing software that also, it's a much steeper learning curve because it's going to be doing things like picture in picture and resizing and a lot of more complicated things, which if you don't already know about it and you're not interested in learning about it, that's when you would say, all right, maybe I need to team up with somebody. Maybe I need to ask for help from somebody who's already familiar with those programs. So there's,
Gotcha.
it's a wide range, and kind of where you land on it will depend on, you know, what's the final product that you're trying to create, and then you can kind of work backwards from there to decide how complicated a tool you're going to need.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great question. Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. So you're talking about
Charles.
the setting up the videos on YouTube, being able to monetize them. What is the policy on, like, when people make that and they monetize it? What's the SCA's policy on what to do with those funds? Like, can you make a video for, like, at your local event or at a Scribble meeting and post it up and say all those pennies go to a private individual?
That is a very good question, and it's something I didn't actually do. I did not dig into that for kind of preparing for this presentation. So I can say a couple of things that I kind of know already. But before I even like jump in with my partial knowledge, I will say the best place to go to answer that question is going to be talk to your local exchequer, because they're going to have the chain of command that can find the right answers to that question, so that you know what happens when I if this starts making money, what do I do? As far as, like, I know there is a precedent for someone in a local group has, bought t-shirts or bought a thing. And so there are policies in place for like refunds and like donating proceeds to the Barony and things like that. I'm not familiar enough with the process there to be able to then say, here's what you can do. So I'm definitely going to defer you to the like exchequers. And I'll make a note too, because I'll ask as well if I can find an answer for that. I'll throw it in the
Oh yeah, sure.
that's an excellent thing. Excellent question.
Most financial policies haven't covered this yet because it's still a very new thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's going to be something that kind of comes up. And so if we're going to start talking about the money aspect of what it is, then we need to make sure that we have policy to cover it.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, somebody's going to do something wrong.
Yeah, 100% agree. And this crossed my mind when you first said it, and it just did again, is the thing that crossed my mind is like the simplest thing, which I think would be pretty cool if we could get to this point, would be to say, if we have a YouTube account for the kingdom, for a group, basically it's tied off of one of the Gmail accounts for that group. So maybe it's the treasurer, maybe it's the seneschal, maybe it's, whatever entity. And then, the YouTube is trying to give me money, which is always a fun sentence to say, even if it's never happened for me. YouTube's trying to give me money, then maybe the financial account that's tied to that could be like a group PayPal account or some other kind of form of electronic banking. And so I think like there are pieces in there to make that not a burden, a stress, or a fear for the people making videos. But like you said, it's very, very new. And I don't know that it is all worked out yet.
Yeah, that's a good question, and it might be worth just contacting, say, the kingdom, who's going to probably up it to the society, because I think that right now we can't actually have PayPal accounts.
Yeah,
so
our current method of banking doesn't really work to enable it, though. What would be really great is if a kingdom or local group took enough time, was curating enough content that YouTube went, we want to give you money because you have so much, because that'd be a real easy way to go society.
But at the other side of it, as having to balance the doomsday report, a bunch of 6-cent checks for 6 cents that gets sent somewhere and then people don't cash is super terrible on trying to balance into your books.
Well,
and this is the backside of some of the service that doesn't come into play is and to use a stereotype, people who are not on this bleeding edge of new versions of social media. The SCA handles this in retrospect after it becomes a problem.
Right.
And so asking the questions up front and trying to get it worked out and at least on society's radar is this is a very, very powerful tool. And I think this class has been really, really excellent, because instead of it just being like, here's this weird thing where dukes put shots on their pell in the backyard. Like in the end, this is a medium that people are using. And so even if it ultimately just comes down to the idea of like, if you're going to present, because the easy, simple way for, paperwork wise is like, if you're going to present as part of the SCA, you cannot monetize. And then we don't have to deal with that stuff at all. And we miss out on potentially making money, but then again, that's not mine nor your call. It really is something interesting to send up the chain.
No, I would be very fascinated to figure out if and what could be made of this. Because even, just even the simple thing of being able to like run an ad on YouTube for a month advertising an event. So that if I'm somebody who's already watching and pretty regularly searching for where's my SCA video from that class, SCA rapier fighting, SCA scribble, SCA dance songs, I get an ad in the middle of my video saying, hey, there's an event in Austin, Texas coming up next month. Go to the website. Like that could be huge.
Yeah, and if I remember right, Modius, when he was doing some advertising while he was Kingdom Seneschal, ran like ads in theaters in both Moonshadow and Shadowlands. And he also ran some on, I think, the History Channel. And I believe that he also did some on YouTube. And the cool thing is that, they have targeted marketing. And so you could say, I specifically want only the people in this area who also happen to be watching videos about trebuchets to know about this, the people, like when you first get somebody who shows up to a demo and like they show up and they like ask that question that immediately lets you know that this is one of our people. This allows you to do that targeting without ever having to set up a table.
Absolutely. The other side of the money question for YouTube is that there's also the other direction of money, which is I can pay YouTube to run my ad. And that direction of using YouTube and creating content, my gut is like, maybe that direction would be simpler, because then it's just this group is spending this much money and we're done. You're basically buying a service for a period of time. So that's like another way that you could use it.
And we do have precedent of that.
Yep. Yeah, I went down a little rabbit hole of like, how does YouTube you know, if I pay X amount of dollars for YouTube to run my ad, like how do they decide when to run it and where? And there's a ton of information about it. And I kind of got lost for a little bit. It was very fascinating. So if people are curious about that, you should look it up. So yeah, any other questions, any other thoughts?
Well, just also, it was, you know, I was thinking about the, I want, you know, people to show up to my local thing. And I was just struck by, you know, with the amount that groups have, you know, started hosting like virtual Scribble nights on Discord, things that people are, you know, trying to do Zoom Hangouts, that kind of thing, that there's just opportunities to continue to build larger SCA community beyond just your local group, so long as people are willing to engage virtually. You know, if you're going to do a thing for your guilds, then trying to also convince your guilds to, you know, have a computer set up streaming the main room and have people be able to, you know, pop in and ask questions and engage with people is a way that you can really continue to drive that content. And then it's the kind of thing that YouTube also can enable, because you can like go live on your YouTube account or that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. And another thought that I had, Orazio and I were talking about this the other day, but the other part of this is the SCA is like, we are a relatively small, focused interest group. We have a very specific hobby and we do very specific things. And there are lots of groups. You know, we've got, especially in Ottarsdottir, I mean, you got Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, College Station, everywhere. We have a huge overlap in the things that we would be trying to advertise. And something that also keep in mind is like, say, Bringwellide in Austin, Texas runs, I don't know, 4 ads for our local groups because we want to do that kind of marketing. Those ads can also help other groups because those videos are not going to be limited to only people in Austin, Texas. They're there for the whole internet. And so if you have like one group, or maybe one group that has, you know, a very, very active SCA YouTube account, that can benefit other groups. And like you could even pool resources and say, well, you know, Bringwellide has a really great video editor, and this group has somebody who has the time and energy to manage the account. But you can basically pool resources, because video content for YouTube, and we even saw from the search that I did, like I was getting results from Trimaris and other kingdoms, like that still helps me because it's still reaching the audience, which I think is very exciting. It opens up, it's a lot of potential for, you know, collaboration or kind of groups helping one another by using, you know, their skills and you know, equipment and people and time and energy together.
Well, thank you very much for teaching. This has been amazing. I mean, just all the data that you put together and the examples, and I feel like I have a much better idea of how this would work now, and I'm sure
Yay.
everybody else does too.
Well, I'm so happy that you asked me to do this, and if people are coming away with a better understanding than they had when I started, then I call that a win.
All right, guys. Well, if nobody has anything else, I guess we'll let everybody go for the evening. But yeah, thank you so much. I'll get the video posted for those. I know there were some that wanted to watch that couldn't actually attend in person tonight. So everybody have a good evening and a good weekend.
Cool.
See
Bye,
lots of the
everybody.
Winter Kingdom. Bye.
Yes. I'll hang around till everybody else is gone. Oh, I'm the host, so I have to leave, otherwise you'll get stuck here. So let me stop.